On July 21st, 2020, our team of 6 summited Mount Rainier with IMG. We took the DC route, which is the most popular, and it traverses snowfields, glaciers, and rocks. It's about 15 miles with 9,000 feet of gain. We booked this trip back in September 2019, so when the pandemic happened, we more or less assumed the trip would be canceled. And then about 4 weeks before the climb, we got an email that the climb was back on with a few modifications to accommodate for COVID safety precautions. The first day, we just drove 2 hours from Seattle down to IMG's headquarters in Ashford for gear checks and to meet our head guide. And honestly, I've never been so anxious for anything in my entire life. I think it was the combination of the pandemic, being quarantined for months, and this being our first real mountaineering trip, then worrying if we got the right gear, if we had trained enough. There were just a lot of unknowns leading up to this day. After 4 hours of gear checks, we had dinner at Wildberry Restaurant and then checked into our bunkhouse for the night. It was a really cute room with 4 beds for Andy, Kenny, Tom, and myself. Amazing. Our luxurious accommodation.
I think it's 43 times.
33! That's
so
bad.
good!
Because of COVID, we couldn't drive all together in the guide's van, so we drove ourselves and parked in the overnight parking lot, which is just a 5-minute walk from the trailhead, and our group ended up starting at 10 a.m. from Paradise.
I look like a maniac.
So we wore these masks the whole way up, and then we kept 6 feet from the climbers and guides that weren't in our family unit. Our backpacks were around 30 to 40 pounds. Mine was a third of my body weight, and I was struggling.
Kenny.
We climbed 4.5 miles up the Muir snowfield, gaining around 4,600 feet of elevation.
Something I should let you open. Stuck in orbit. I just wanna feel something.
Hi guys.
Hard to tell if this emotion. Something I should let you.
After 6 hours of climbing with breaks, we reached Camp Muir at 10,000 feet on Sunday at 4 p.m. Normally, we'd be spending the night in one of these huts, but because of COVID, we couldn't all be in a bunkhouse. Instead, we slept in tents, which I honestly think ended up being better for getting a good night's sleep.
Hard to tell if this emotion.
The view from Camp Muir is insane, with all the Cascade volcanoes laid out before you. There's Adams at 12,000 feet, St. Helens at 8,000 feet, and even Mount Hood in Oregon in the distance at 11,000 feet. On the other side of the stone huts are all the tents set up on the Cowlitz Glacier. We hung out and played cards before dinner. Because of COVID, the guides couldn't cook dinner for us, so we brought our own dehydrated meals. And they melt glacier snow for our drinking water and boil water for our meals.
Stuck in orbit. I just wanna feel something. Hard to tell if this emotion. Something I should let you open. Stuck in orbit. I just wanna feel something.
I went to bed around 8 p.m. that night after dinner, but woke up around 9 needing to go to the bathroom. And thank God I did, because this was seriously one of the best sunsets ever. At this point in the day, I was just feeling grateful that IMG made this trip possible during a pandemic. Despite all the hiking that we do, we'd never camped out on a glacier before or even snow. So all of this was a new experience, and we'd already learned so many new skills and techniques from the guides that day. So I level set with myself that even if we couldn't summit for whatever reason, whether it be fatigue or my pack being too big or the weather taking a turn, whatever happened this trip, it had already been well worth it. I think it was with this mindset of being grateful and satisfied that I finally was able to stop worrying so much and just enjoy the rest of the days on the mountain. We had a glacier travel and mountaineering skills session on the Cowlitz Glacier right next to camp. We practiced roped glacier travel, how to use an anchor, and practiced skills like self-arrest with our ice axe. After mountaineering school, we roped up in 4 different rope teams and left Camp Muir, crossing the Cowlitz Glacier. The trail transitions to non-glaciated rock where we short roped and headed up an area called Cathedral Gap. The crazy part about this bit is you leave your crampons on while walking on the rocks. For rope teams, Madison and Catherine were paired with Patrick, Andy with Anna, Kenny with Kevin, and Tom and I were with Harry. All this footage is thanks to Kenny. I took one look at those crevasses to my right and was literally terrified, and did not take my phone out of my pocket the entire time to take any pictures or videos while we were climbing on the glaciers. I mean, like, those things are just insanely huge. I had never seen anything like it that up close in my life. So we made it. After hiking for an hour or so, we made it to our second camp, Ingraham Flats. The tents were already set up, waiting for us, and it was just the most beautiful place to camp. We had perfect weather this trip. It was super sunny and hot, so we did have to cover ourselves to minimize exposure to the rays. We rested when we got to camp and ate dinner around 3 p.m. and were in bed by 5 p.m. I didn't fall asleep until 9 p.m. or so I really only got 2 hours of sleep, but I was laying down and resting for 6 hours. Patrick woke us up at 11 p.m. and brought coffee to our tents, which was great. We packed up and left behind any items that we didn't need at the summit, like sleeping bags to retrieve on the way back down, and then chose layers that we were going to wear to start, roped up, and left by 12:30 a.m. "30 minutes after leaving Ingraham Flats, there's this area called the bowling alley, where there's rock fall hazard. 30 seconds into this section, we heard a huge rock falling above us, and we all started sprinting while short roped to each other and made it through unscathed but really shaken up. A few hours of climbing later, we were only 20 minutes from the summit, and I hit a wall. I had to pause and eat a few Gatorade chews, and the sugar was enough to push me through the last few switchbacks to the crater rim. So we had the option to just stay at the crater rim, or we could go a little bit higher to the true summit to sign the trail register and go to the actual true summit, Columbia Crest. Without saying a word, we all got on our parkas and started the traverse across the crater floor to reach the true summit. This was for sure the most emotional moment of my life. I think we were all just so proud of each other. Our entire team made it to the top, and I've personally never had such gratitude for what my body and mind were able to accomplish that day. Signing the register. After we signed the summit register, we just had a little bit further to go to the true summit, Columbia Crest. So we just headed up this like rocky, gravelly section to reach the true summit. Five hours after we left camp that morning, or that evening, we were standing at the highest point in Washington state at 14,410 feet. Mount Rainier is the tallest and most heavily glaciated out of all the Cascade volcanoes. It's also the 5th tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. Andy and I had been dreaming of this moment since we started planning the trip back in March 2019, only 2 months after we met each other in January. I really feel so lucky to have met such a great friend where we push each other to accomplish such extraordinary things. I mean, this was just the best moment of our lives.
I'll shut my eyes and hold you close. You're all I've needed. I never want to see the end. I'm caught in a dream again. In the night of mighty love, you're all I have, you're all I know. I'll shut my eyes and hold you close. You're all I've needed. I never want to see the end.
So we just summited Mount Rainier. We woke up at 11 p.m. We got ready and left by 12:30 a.m. We summited around 5:30 a.m. And then we hauled ass back down to Camp Muir by like 9 a.m. And now we're at Camp Muir, and we still have to go all the way back down to Paradise.